Hey YouTubers, Glynda here. I wanted to share something with y'all today. Guess we'd help pick up my microphone this time since I seem to forget that so much. I need to get another one of those little, I don't know, lapel mics or something. But I haven't made videos in so long. Okay, I want to read you something about what a lot of you are going through. A lot of you are being sent to places you don't know. Going to unfamiliar places can be very unsettling. And it's just a strange experience. Let me just read you this and it'll make more sense. This is an excerpt from the Wilderness Companion Study Guide. And by the way, this is a standalone book. It doesn't go with the Wilderness Companion. It's actually a continuance. It's more little short stories that are 2 and 3 pages long about things that have to do with the wilderness. Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land I will show thee. Genesis 12:1, we just talked about that last week. When the Lord sent Moses to lead the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and into their promised land, they were unfamiliar with surviving in the desert. For my first wilderness journey, the Lord led me from a dusty little town of a few thousand people in western Oklahoma to the big city of Dallas, Texas. I still remember how scared I was. I still remember 4 months later coming out of the ladies' room at Bank of America and my knees were knocking because I was still so afraid. I was just trying not to think about it, but I was so scared. I was beyond terrified. The only thing that kept me from packing up and speeding back to Oklahoma as fast as I could get there was the fact that I knew I had heard from God, and I know where He guides, He always provides. So that told me that in spite of how scared I was, it was all going to work out somehow. I just sorely wished I knew how. I did not have the ministry then. I did not know anybody in Dallas. I knew my brother and sister-in-law and my dad that lived outside of Princeton in a little town called Blue Ridge, but I didn't know anybody else. And I went there with no money, one charge card that had a little credit left on it. That was it. That was it. It was so scared. I left everybody and everything I knew. The Lord often leads us to new surroundings in our wilderness journeys. Not only new, but completely unfamiliar types of environments, just as He did the Israelites. They weren't used to living in the desert. They were used to living in town, just as He did me, just as He has done so many people in their wilderness seasons. Leading us into new and unfamiliar places has a dual purpose. In order to get us to that desperate place where we are forced to stand in faith and trust the Lord, He must first strip away the homey comforts of familiarity and remove us from all those who love us, who would jump in and rescue us from our unbelief, thinking they were doing us a favor. Y'all think about this, because a lot of you are going to be going through it if you hadn't already. The only way you ever learn to really stand on just faith in God, true Bible-believing faith in the promises of His Word, is when you have no other choice. A woman in the Northeast wrote to me in a card and she said, how do you believe God to provide everything you need? Because she's in a wilderness. And there is only one way to learn to believe Him for everything that you need, and that's when He gets you down to where you have nothing else, because we will not do that as humans until we are forced to, because it is not in our nature. Our nature is you go get a job, you work the job, you take the paycheck home, and you pay the bills. We all are on the paycheck system. We are not used to having to depend on someone, no matter how wonderful they are. Okay. You cannot have anything else to fall back on. That is why when God leads you towards the wilderness, He will cause you to have to deplete all your savings. Because if they are there, you will depend on them instead of depending on Him. And then you won't develop any faith. Faith is hard work when you're learning it. You must fight to keep your faith. You must fight the voice of fear the enemy is using to try to bring down your faith. You must fight all the doubt and unbelief coming from those who know you, who think you're off your rocker. And there will be a lot. And you must fight your own desire to save yourself from your predicament somehow. Because all of these will work against you learning to trust God. And God is trying to teach you to trust only Him and His Word for everything you need. We knew how to get our needs met in familiar places, but what about where we are now? In Genesis 12, the Lord spoke to Abram to leave everything and everyone he knew and set out, and the Lord would tell him where he was going on the way. Abram traveled through the wilderness for a long time. He traveled through a place where there was a famine. But you know what? The Lord brought him out with great possessions for all his trouble, and also gave him an heir, even though it was impossible for he and Sarai to have a child at Sarai's advanced age. But Abram had to be willing to trust God and step away from all he knew in order to receive what only God could give him. Joseph was also in the wilderness. He sold into slavery when he was just a teen, and then falsely accused and thrown into prison. But he trusted God in spite of his circumstances, and God made him a great ruler that we are still talking about over 2,000 years later. Elijah was led into the wilderness and became one of the greatest prophets in history. King David was in the wilderness for 10 years, and he became the most legendary king in all the Bible until Jesus. If you are in the wilderness now, you can be sure the Lord has a good plan for you. A wilderness season means you are up for promotion if you pass the test. There are many examples in the Bible confirming this. Though you may feel lost, you are not. Jesus walks every step beside you, and he knows just where you need to go. Trust him. Now, if you listen to the message I put out, what was it, a week ago or for this week? I don't know, I lose track. One of the things I said was, and I forgot what I said. But whenever everything is falling apart and it don't make sense, there is a bigger purpose behind it. When you walk with God and your life is just crumbling in front of you, you're like, what is going on? What is going on? When he sent me to Dallas years ago in 1998, all I wanted was my life back. That's all I wanted. I just wanted my nice, predictable life back. I didn't want anything else. But he saw a bigger picture. And he had a bigger purpose, which was for me to do what I'm doing now to help all of you. And so he put me in a place where I had to learn to trust him. I had no other choice. I didn't have enough money to live. I didn't have enough money to eat. I had to trust him for everything. When all I could do was eat on $5 a week for lunch. You could never do that now. Can I just say that? I can't believe the cost of fast food now. When he had me in that position, that money would last 4 days. If I ate just a $1 special, if there was like a $1 burger somewhere, I would go get that. And I would eat that for 4 days, and then there was only a little bit of change left on Friday. And so every Friday I'd say, Lord, can you send somebody by to take me to lunch today? Because I'm not going to have anything to eat if you don't. And every single Friday he did. And not only did he do it, and I didn't say anything to let the people know what I was going through. None of them knew. None of them. They would be very surprised if they saw this video because none of them knew. Not only would they take me to lunch, but they would take me and buy me lunch someplace nice that I couldn't even afford to eat with a big meal, enough food. And it's so interesting and so amazing to watch all the ways that he takes care of you in the wilderness. It is terrifying at times. It is until you learn to trust him. Once you learn to trust him, you still have the pressures of what's going to happen with this, what's going to happen with that. But if you learn how to rebuke the devil, it's not as bad. If you learn to kick Satan in the teeth every time he comes at you with doubt, then the wilderness is not as difficult. You're still in the desert, but you're coming out the other side with a gift in your hands, because you always come out of the wilderness with a gift in your hands. And it's always a gift you can't get any other way, and it's always something priceless, like faith. I would not take any amount of money for the wilderness experiences that I had for the faith that I have now, because that faith is worth gold. Because if you have that faith, you can get anything else you need. And if you have money, it just goes however far money goes. Money's a good thing, don't get me wrong. It's good to have enough money to pay our bills and get things that we need. But faith is what will work in the times to come when there is no food. When there's no food to be had, God knows where there's food. He can make food out of thin air and feed you and feed your children. And y'all, I didn't mean to say all this, so please take that to heart and please remember that. Because in the times to come, if you are walking closely with him, it's going to be as bad for you as they are for other people. But if you're just lollygagging around out there, or if you're just lukewarm and you're not devoted to him, and you got all kind of sin in your life and stuff going on, it's going to be hard for you because it is a time of refining. And if you need refinement, that's what you're going to get. So I'm trying to help you. Anyway, I wanted to share that with y'all. It's an excerpt from the Wilderness Companion Study Guide, which is a standalone book available on Amazon.com with all my other books. I hope it's a help to you. I'm probably going to record some more of these little short videos just to help y'all. Thanks for listening. Jesus bless you. Y'all have a great week.